Okay, so previously at the end of my last video, I made a prediction that in 20 years' time there would be an entire Wizarding World cinematic universe. Now, did I make the end of that video slightly overdramatic?
My name's Devin Heidi, the head of the WWCU in the year 2040.
Well, maybe. Yeah, probably. But what it really was the setup for this video. Today we live in a world where massive studios are releasing films that are just smashing records and bringing in a ton at the box office. And a lot of these films are mostly part of a series or an expanded universe. Now, shared universes have been around for decades, even dating back to as late as the 1930s, with old movies and shows based around famous monster characters, and even more famously within comic books, where they started to feature other characters from previous installments, which was really the starting point for Marvel and DC films. But right now, in this modern age of cinema, some of the most popular films that are being released are a part of some expanded universe in some way. Since the release of Infinity War and Endgame, this has certainly started to reach massive levels of popularity and success. A lot of people love the idea of an interconnected universe within a story and how it all fits together to tell one narrative. The most obvious example of this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has just been releasing film after film after film, and even of June 2021, when this video will be released, there are still 4 new MCU films to be released this year alone. It's an absolute powerhouse, with them also releasing a number of Disney Plus shows based around these characters, and with no sign of slowing down. And Marvel are not alone. DC, the X-Men, Star Wars, along with so many others, are building or have already established a shared universe. So you may be thinking, where does Harry Potter fit into all of this? Well, it is no secret that the Harry Potter franchise is a big name in itself, and the popularity of it is still going pretty strong. 5 years after the final Harry Potter movie in 2011, Warner Bros. Released the next installment to the series, a prequel based on author Newt Scamander and his Fantastic Beasts, Lost in New York, in the 1920s. Even though it is still connected to the Harry Potter series, it is its own story in itself, with only some very minor connections to the original Harry Potter series in the first film. And the only thing that they have in common is the fact that they're both set in the same universe. However, with the next installment, The Crimes of Grindelwald, they really do try and remind you of the Harry Potter series. If that's with previous locations, characters, and plot devices, it is a shame that this movie couldn't just stand on its own like its previous film. And with 3 other installments still to come, it will really determine if there is a possibility for further Wizarding World installments. As I mentioned, Marvel are turning out at least 3 films a year on average, but the Fantastic Beasts series is struggling to get their act together. Originally, there was meant to be a Fantastic Beasts film released every second year, being 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022, and 2024. However, due to some delays, it looks like that will no longer be happening, with Fantastic Beasts 3 not being released until 2022. Now, personally, I actually don't mind the pushbacks of release dates because I would much rather them get it right instead of having another failure like The Crimes of Grindelwald. However, I am worried that they won't be able to stick a landing, because if they can't get it right, it may be the end of the Harry Potter franchise. But let's just say that the next 3 Fantastic Beasts films are smash hits, critically acclaimed. It would make sense to build on the universe and expand it to new characters and movies. It seems like it would be the most logical choice moving forward, if there was enough demand for it. I do think that a possible Wizarding World cinematic universe would be a good idea. There are so many possible storylines, characters, and places to take the story inside this universe. It would be a great way to explore new possible ideas. The Harry Potter world is packed with so many myths, legends, character backstories that could all be covered more closely in either a movie or series. Stories that were explored a little bit in the books that people want to know more about. Characters that just didn't get enough screen time in the movies, and they could finally be delved into deeper if they got their own series. All of these stories, if turned into content, could be all connected within one whole universe, and I think that would be really cool to explore further. Now, there are just so many ways that they could take it, so here are some ideas of possible movies or shows that could be a part of the Wizarding World cinematic universe. First, let's start off with the most obvious, and the one that Harry Potter fans have been requested turned into a spin-off for a while now, and that is the story of the Founders of Hogwarts. This show would follow the lives of the witches and wizards that founded the school.
Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin.
The series would focus on each of the four founders and what led to them founding Hogwarts. Each character's story would be delved into here, and the rivalries between individual characters would start to form. The history of Hogwarts has always been really interesting, and it'd be great to see how many of the passages and secrets of the castle are unravelled, and especially the secrets of Slytherin, with him building the Chamber of Secrets and eventually leaving the school. I believe that the series could really build on what we know about the Hogwarts already, but also dive into more of the mystery elements of the founders and the castle itself. The next possible idea is the Marauders. The Marauders are some of the best characters in the Harry Potter series that unfortunately don't get much screen time in the films. But in the books, their story is quite complex and would be great to explore even further in a series. If you're unsure or have forgotten what the Marauders are, the group consists of James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and Peter Pettigrew, and the series would focus on their time at Hogwarts. And there are so many ways that they could take the series in. How they would illegally turn into animagus to be there for Remus when he would turn into a werewolf every full moon, how they created the Marauders map to get outside Hogwarts, their relationship with Severus Snape and his friendship with Lily, and how in their later years at Hogwarts they split apart and it being one of Snape's biggest regrets, and even what's going on outside the castle at the time with Voldemort on the rise. There are endless ways that they could take the series in, and it would be a great idea for a spin-off. Now, I've been sitting on this idea for a while now, and I've seen a few other people mention it as well, and it might be my favourite on this list. The First Wizarding War. Something that is mentioned quite a few times throughout the series is the First Wizarding War. It is literally the beginning of the Harry Potter story, and I think it would be great to explore. Having younger versions of these characters that we all know, like Lily, James, Remus, Sirius, Dumbledore, Hagrid, and Snape, and countless others, would be great to see how they explore these hardships of the war and the impact that has had on their lives with Voldemort rising to power. I think that the series could focus on a lesser known character and tell the story from their point of view, someone in the Order who has first-hand access to the battle, but also these characters. Therefore, the series could focus on a new unknown character, but it would also be able to feature some of the original characters from the Harry Potter series. We could also see moments leading up to the Potter's death, the betrayal, and darker sides to characters that we haven't actually seen before. I also think it would be great and interesting if the series could take a darker direction, and it could give us something new in the Wizarding world. Voldemort is one of the most complex characters in the series, and one of the best villains of all time. So a series that explores his early life and how he rose to power is a really interesting idea. The films could go into how he's able to manipulate people and use his evil charm to get what he wanted. Also learning about how he was able to first summon his Death Eaters, first creating his Horcruxes, and then becoming the most feared wizard of all time could all be explored if he was given his own standalone films. Now, this is one of those stories that was hardly covered in the Harry Potter books, but I still think it's a big part of the Wizarding World lore and would make a great spin-off movie or series. The Goblin Revolution tells the story of how goblins would team up and fight for their rights in the wizarding community because humans would always think they were higher up than other magical creatures. The tension between humans and goblins all began back with Godric Gryffindor when he was still alive, and this was really the starting point for the revolution. The timeline spreads out over multiple battles that took place over multiple years, and the series would show the formation of the Ministry of Magic and all of the damage that was caused between humans and goblins. I think that's an incredible piece of lore from the Harry Potter series that would really work well as a movie or series. Now, all of the series and movies I've mentioned before now have all been based before the Harry Potter series has taken place, so it still would be nice to have a movie based in the modern time, and that is the case with the next idea, Harry's life as an Auror, taking place before the events of 19 years later. The film or series would focus on Harry, Ron and Hermione working at the Ministry of Magic and some of the situations that they'll have to face there. Harry starting a new family life with 3 small children and going out and risking his life every day facing dark wizards. Hermione becoming the Minister of Magic, and Ron wondering if he actually wants to work in the Ministry and if it's actually what he wants to do. Again, these are just the basic ideas, and there are definitely so many other directions that they could take this series in. And finally, a possible team-up movie, where characters, who would obviously be alive in the present day, would fight off against a new threat that is causing terror in the Wizarding world, bringing in new and old characters for the fight. Now, they're just a few ideas of possible spin-offs. I know that there are so many others out there, but they're just a few that I thought would work really well for a connected universe. And something to note about all of these ideas is that they all connect and link back to the Harry Potter series in some way or another, just to show they take place on one huge timeline. Now, personally, that would be my vision if they were to continue with the Harry Potter cinematic universe after Fantastic Beasts. And I honestly think it could work really well, as long as they have a plan and stick with canon. But at this point, who knows what Warner Bros. Are thinking. Apparently, they were in early talks to reboot the series completely, probably with some 7-season series. But at this point, it's only really speculation, so who knows what they're thinking. But we do know that Warner Bros. Are no secret to shared universes with DC Expanded Universe, and I'm pretty sure that Scoob was the beginning of a shared universe in some way, but who knows if that's taking off. And that is just the thing. If the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies that end the series are not successful, then it's probably not going to happen. But I do think that Fantastic Beasts series is the beginning of something bigger, but that's just speculation from me. But make sure to comment down below some possible ideas for Harry Potter spin-offs, because on this channel I've been doing Pixar sequel pitches, and I would love to do the same for Harry Potter, and go into more depth about some of the ideas I've mentioned today, and I'd really love to lay the groundwork to get more ideas out about these movies and series, just to see what they could look like. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you next Friday.